All right, let's look at 11.1. We're talking about equations with variables on both sides. We've actually been doing this all year. Same thing. Remember, anything you do to one side of an equation, you can do the other side of the equation. I've been putting a line down. I'd love for you to stick to that method. It helps you ensure you do it. So when you get these, just make sure you line down at the equal sign. You'll see all these examples up here follow the same thing. This is a pretty straightforward one. We've got 5x equals 2x plus 12. The first thing we do is we want to get the x's all together. To do that, we move them off this side to this side. And 3x equals 12. Then we divide by the coefficient or the number with the variable. Because it's both sides, we do that and get x equals 4. This one down here is pretty similar. They talk about this one here. If we get something like this here, where we've got stuff inside of parentheses, the first thing you want to do is distribute. And when you distribute, you multiply this by this and this by this. Same thing over here. That's how you distribute. You're giving it. Distribute means to give everybody one. And then we follow that same pattern. We put our line down. We move all the variables to one side, all the numbers with variables to one side, all the numbers without variables to the other. We get straight up. So let's do a couple of problems. The first one we're going to do here says 2y plus 1 equals 3y minus 5. I'm going to put my line straight down. In fact, that's the requirement here for the extra points, is just a line straight down. So I'm going to move my variables, and I'm going to take it. I like to not work in negatives. So I'm going to look 2y and 3y. Well, 3y is the biggest, so I'm going to subtract 2y from this side and 2y from this side. Then bring them down. So 2y minus 2y, there's no y left. 1 equals 3y minus 2y is just 1y, or y, because we don't have to draw the 1. Now I'm going to move the 5. I'm going to add 5 to both sides, doing the opposite of it. So that goes away, so that's just y on that side. And 1 plus 5 is 6. So y equals 6. All right, let's look at the second one. Now this one's unique. We've got a bunch of fractions. Now the first thing to do, the easiest way to do this, is to get rid of fractions. To do that, you look down here. I've got 2's and 4's. Look at this. 4 is the least common multiple of everything there. So if I multiply both sides by 4, I'm going to lose all fractions because this is going to go up. So when I multiply 4 times 1/4, well, 4 goes into 4 one time, so 1 times 1, I end up with 1, minus 4 goes into 2 twice, so I end up with 2r. Negative 3/4 in 4, well, 4 goes into that straight up, so I end up with negative 3. Whoops, that's a terrible 3r. And let me go down here and make sure I'm not going this too fast, and let's work through this. So when I had 4 times 1/4 minus 4 times 1/2, remember I'm distributing, right? 4 minus 1, so it's times 4, minus 4 times 1/2 r, and that equals, again, I'm distributing 4 times negative 3/4 r. So when you go across here, remember you can't, the way you do turn a regular number into a fraction is put it over 1. So 4 goes into itself once, which means I've got 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1. I've got 1 over 1. And anything over 1 is itself. In this case, it's 1. So I got 4 times 1/2. Again, put it in a fraction form. 2 goes into itself once. 2 goes into 4 twice. So I have 2 times 1 is 2 over 1 times 1 is 1. Anything over 1 itself, so 2 over 1. So I have minus 2r equals 4 times 3/4. Again, I put it over 1. 4 goes into 4 once. 3 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. Anything over 1, so I get, remember I'm bringing down this negative 3r. So that's how I got that up there. Let me go back up to here. So now I need to move things over and around. Remember what I said about moving things around? Well, in this case, it's not easy to get the positive. So let's just go the way it is. Leave the 1 alone because there's 2 things on this side. So plus 2r, that's the opposite of it, right? That means 1 equals, because those go away, negative 3 plus 2, so negative 3r plus 2r is negative 1r, or just negative r. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1, and the reason I'm going to do that is so I can lose the negative on the r side. So negative 1 times 1 is negative 1, and negative 1r times negative 1 is r, or 1r. So r equals negative 1. So looking at the problem over here, I've got decimals. Decimals don't bother me too much. I'm not threatened by them. Fractions are a little harder to work with. Decimals, I can leave them alone. I could multiply this by 10 to get rid of all the decimal places, but I'm not feeling the real urge to do that right now. If you get crazy decimals, it helps multiply them by a number, or 1 with the number of zeros that have decimal places. In this case, 1 0, so it would be 10. If you had 2 decimal places, you multiply everything by 100, and it'd work out fine. So I don't really need that. Again, I want to have the positive g, so here I'm going to add 4g. I'm going to add it to both sides. That's going to give me a positive g on this side, which is what I'm looking for. So these go away. I get 12.5 equals negative 2g plus 4g equals 2g minus 3.5. Now I'm going to lose my 3.5 and bring it over here, so I'm going to add 3.5 to both sides. This goes away, so I get 2g equals, well, 12.5 plus 3.5 is, that's 0, carry the 1, that's 6, so it's 16. I divide both sides by 2. That's the number with the coefficient with the variable. That goes away. I get g equals 16 divided by 2 is 8. So, hope that was helpful.